As this Filipina therapist, the question is there an unpleasant exchange for the growth and healing that you would experience receiving therapy or coaching? Now, this is really a question rarely talked about in the field of wellness. And I think it could easily be understood because, especially in the Filipinx and the BIPOC population, there is a stigma in asking for support, especially with mental health. And to say that there might be an unpleasant exchange, might turn people off. But I differ. I think that people come in to therapy first. They must come in knowingly, collaboratively, with the practitioner. And then secondly, I think all people come in for therapy because they want to experience healing, transformation, a change. And there is a caveat, really, for things to change. So it could be thinking that only the one person needs to change, and that's quite possible. But most of the time, I'm going to use a metaphor. If you're boiling water, right, and if that water has been simmering for many years because it may have stuff that's not processed, trauma, or just some negative experiences, that simmering can become boiling and then it could explode. Now, it's possible that you can actually learn how to tone down the knob, like if you have a stove, and that would just be a simmer. Most of the time, if not all the time, we are part of a system. So even if you are one person in therapy, I always imagine as a therapist, even if somebody comes in, really behind them is the energy of their older generation, their future generation. So I give those energy a seat on the couch, if you will. Now, for really change to occur, to transformation to be sustainable, the system would also have to get used to the change. So the water to continue just to simmer or to cool down, the stove, which is the system, whether that's family, whether that's your relationship with your partner, your spouse. So here's an unpleasant exchange for healing. And I have my notes here on the side. So first, you would have to adjust to your environment. And that would mean, maybe the job that seems so is like, wow, that job is really not for me. I can't stand another day, because of the healing that or growth that you're experiencing. It's also possible, and I've had this experience where, partners who have been supportive of their, let's say, partner, wives, or not necessarily female or male, would suddenly feel like, wow, I need to really need space from this person. Sometimes they've even contemplated divorce. Now, I slow them down because sometimes it's just a pivoting, a tweaking, because everybody's trying to adjust. And any type of change and an adjustment can be a challenge. If your partner is usually quote and unquote depressed and you're the sounding board and you feel good, doing that, you feel like the hero. And then suddenly the person is like, seeing the brighter things, side of things, if you will. And the other person who may feel so good in that role may not have enough gas, if you will, And so that's an exchange. So adjustment with oneself, it could be career, finding out not wanting to be around certain group of people, setting healthier boundaries for sure, finding yourself in a relationship that seems to be fine before, but that you feel like I have to think about this. One important part here is that there is no formula. There's no specific path that one person and the next person should take. And that once you start seeing growth and healing, that everybody would just not be satisfied with their career. Of course not. Everybody's different. These are just some of the things that you might experience or you may not. Now, it's not always, it doesn't always mean that you have to leave a relationship, although that could be the best thing for certain people. But it could be just that you're adjusting and helping your partner adjust to the new you. Lastly, talking about, I know I briefly touch on adjusting to yourself. Sometimes you would talk or speak up more, show up more. That sounds so unfamiliar for some of the women that I've served, and they're like doubtful in the beginning. Was that me? Is that my voice? And their mind might take them in sort of like the extreme. Oh, women who are very assertive are this way, say they would categorize it. And so the key is to integrate. Each and every time that we have a negative experience or a trauma, the tendency of the brain and the body is to create a rule. For example, if you had an abusive father, for instance, you might categorize or generalize males to be as such, right? And then you might think that you've already healed when you don't think that way at all, and you might go to the extreme. Or men are all are good, for instance, and you might have difficulty discriminating when there are certain occasions that you might need to discriminate. So it's about integration rather than creating a rule. When you are able to slow down and decide based not from reflex, but really trying to be thoughtful, intentional in your next step, then that's possibly a great sign that you have transformed or have reached some type of healing. So I hope that's helpful. If you have any questions for this Filipina therapist, go ahead and drop that question. It's my pleasure to serve you today, and have a nice day.